Ho ho ho, and what is up, G3 fam? My name is G3 Iron, and welcome to today's discussion where we're going to be giving you 5 tips to help you have a more excellent experience in the upcoming Delve Endless event that is just a few days away. Without any further ado, let the countdown begin! The number one most important tip that I can give you to start the upcoming Delve Endless event is to change your loot filter. This is going to be a very, very different Path of Exile experience to what we're used to playing during a new league or even during a new special event. The Delve event in and of itself is going to be very, very limited in a lot of ways, and you are going to want a very tightly honed and focused loot filter that is going to help you look for the things that you need and avoid the things that you don't need. So a couple of things to keep in mind. First off, this is an SSF event, so plan your loot filter like it's an SSF event. If you're thinking, yeah, well, Iron, maybe I'll just go and use a regular loot filter and just adjust it for various based economy style tweaks. Yeah, that's not going to end up very well for you. This is an SSF style event. What usually gets adjusted in most loot filters based on supply and demand of various shifting metas in a trade-based economy, it just all goes out the window in an SSF event. Anything you find is going to be yours and yours alone, meaning if you pick it up, you better have a use for it. If you don't have a use for it anymore, then get rid of it. There's no point in having it. And if there's no point in you eventually having it, and if there's no point in you having it now, then make sure it's hidden and off of your loot filter altogether. Because this is an SSF event, there are some things from the economy that typically would be highly valued that simply aren't going to be very valuable, and other things which might not be very valuable in a trade economy that are incredibly valuable. For instance, you'll need augments, you'll need alterations, you'll even want to look out for essences and essence nodes. Those are a big, big deal in an SSF event, any kind of SSF event, and now we're SSF in Delve alone. In addition to honing in on your various types of currency that you're looking for, you're also going to want to hone in on the various types of item base types that you're looking for. You would hate for a perfect item base type to go by your character and be lost in your loot filter, because most loot filters are probably going to filter it out. But maybe because you're playing a particular build, you've got a particular base type that you want to keep your eyes open for. Make sure it's actually showing and displaying on your loot filter. For most of us, when we're playing Trade League, we're looking for getting 6 links as quickly as possible, and a lot of the time that is available relatively early in the league because of corrupted Vol side areas and because of course, Alva temples in addition to Vol side areas. Well, we don't have a lot of those mechanisms coming into this Delve event. We also, of course, don't have trade, meaning if your buddy finds an additional 6 link, they won't be able to give it to you. So make sure 5 links are something that your build can handle and run off of, and make sure it's something that you're not hiding on your loot filter. There's a whole lot more tips about loot filters that we could give, but the last thing that I'm going to say about loot filters is simply to remind you that, again, because we're not trading for anything, you want to keep your loot filter fine-tuned for the particular uniques that you're looking for on your build that could be beneficial. Maybe you don't have a build that you're particularly married to. Maybe you're open to playing different builds depending on what uniques drop. That's a very, very common SSF strategy, to play a generalized character and then to hone in based on what sort of uniques you get to drop. That's totally fine. Make sure those uniques that could drop, that could be build defining for you, are actually going to appear on your loot filter, because oftentimes players will go into an environment and forget that their loot filter is set for an economy-based league and they're in an SSF-based league, and oh no, now a whole bunch of various uniques that might have been helpful have simply gone past by because you filtered it out of your loot filter. Change your loot filter and make sure it's up to date for you to have an exceptional Endless Delve experience. Tip number 2 is to go sideways. Don't be afraid of traveling sideways. Oftentimes when we think of Delve, we think of going as fast as we can to get to a particular Delve depth, or to simply endlessly push into the deep darkness of Delve. And while that's a general rule of thumb, and I'm not going to tell you not to push deeper, I'm simply here to say it doesn't hurt to go sideways. There are a couple of things to remember in this case. The first thing to remember is once you get towards the end game of Delve, the end game of getting experience and the end game of your character, the highest and the most experience that you can get from monsters in Delve is going to start at Delve depth 171. That's where monsters are going to be the equivalent of being tier 16 maps, are going to be eye level 83 zones. That's very, very important. It means for those of you who are pushing to level 90, like I'm going to try to do, it means that you're going to want to get around that level of depth in order to not suffer massive experience penalties. Remember, you need to be within 10 levels of the zone that you're in order not to suffer massive experience penalties. This means once you get to Delve depth 171, you could in theory go sideways and not experience any kind of experience penalties until you ding level 94. All the way through 93, you'll be okay and you won't experience any sort of loss of XP or penalty to your XP as you're going sideways. A couple other points to consider as you are going sideways. We start off this event with 40 wisdom scrolls, with class uniques, and then also with some skill gems. Then at levels 33, 55, 68, and 75, that is when we are going to be rewarded with 2 ascendancy points. We don't have to run the lab. We're simply going to get those points when we ding those levels. So if you're close to getting those levels, let's say you're level 31 or 32, and you're finding it difficult to push deeper and deeper, whatever delve depth you're at that time, simply go sideways for a time until you get the XP to actually get those ascendancy points that you're looking for, and then with your newfound player power, go push deeper until you can't anymore. Every 10 levels, we're going to be rewarded with 3 passive points. This is how Grinding Gear Games is giving us as players passive points as we continue to progress on our characters without having to progress through the 10-act story campaign. This is a really, really cool idea. I really like this. And the same thing that we just said about ascendancies can be applied to basic levels. Let's say you're level 9 and you can't push the card any deeper. It's just too tough. Go sideways until you hit level 10, get 3 more passive points. Who knows? Maybe that unlocks a new keystone, or maybe that unlocks some more augments for your build. Maybe a jewel socket, maybe some resistances on the passive tree. I know it's 2020 and I can't believe I'm saying get resistances on the passive tree, but who knows what it's going to be like in the Endless Delve event. Maybe you need some more health, maybe you need some more energy shield, maybe you need some more crit multi. Whatever it is, every 10 levels you're going to get a massive boost until 70. After 70, we're not going to get those passives anymore, but all the way up through level 70, you're going to get 3 passive points every 10 levels, and that is a massive power boost every 10 levels. Lastly, as you're going sideways, you're going to want to look out for level 40 and level 70, as your rewards are going to be the Katava penalty of minus 30 resistance across the board for each of those. So let's say you don't have resistance gear and you're noticing that you're pushing level 38, level 39. Start crafting and start looking for some resistance gear. Maybe go into a zone that you might experience an experience penalty, but at least you're not going to push and go over that level 40 where then you're going to suffer that minus 30 resistance. Go look for some rewarding nodes, or maybe you're going to have some crafting currency you can use, or some item base types that potentially can drop some better resistance gear for you to be then better prepared once you push past either level 40 or level 70 to deal with those resistance rewards. Tip number 3 is to know the rules of hidden encounters. It happens pretty much every league, whether it's a new player or a returning veteran, maybe who hasn't played for a league or two. Every single league. It happens to us on Discord. It happens to me in game. It happens to me on YouTube, on Twitch, everywhere. Players go, hey, I can't find my way to this one particular node. There's a node that I really need. It's got rewards that I'm really looking forward to getting, but there's no path leading to it. How do I get to this hidden encounter? It's a question that comes up all the time across the board inside the PoE community. Don't feel bad for asking the question. Feel bad if you don't know where to find the solution. We're giving you 2 places where you can find solutions presented in slightly different ways today. So if you don't like one of them, maybe the other tool will help you. The first one is, of course, a Path of Exile forum post that is incredibly detailed, incredibly well put together, and there's 19 pages worth of discussion on it. So if you found yourself in a particularly unique scenario and you can't figure out how to access the hidden node, go and check that out. That's linked down below in the video description. You can even link it as a bookmark, so that way you've always got it in case you bump into a node that you really need to get to. Above my slightly festive forehead, there is our second tool that we're recommending today. It's of course provided for by the good folks over at POE Lab. Many of us are familiar with POE Lab because if you're farming the lab and you're farming Azaro, then you're checking POE Lab every day in order to know what the best layout is and what rooms you need to run through and what rooms you need to avoid. POE Lab also has a very helpful breakdown and a discussion of how to get through the general rules of what it takes for a delve to populate one of these hidden encounters and what the rules are for finding the hidden pathway to that encounter, along with actually providing some examples for you to try out. This is a very, very helpful presentation and a helpful way to figure out and approach whatever hidden scenario you're in, looking for that node that is hiding its otherwise juicy rewards from you as a player. If you want to be able to unlock those particular hidden encounters, then simply using one of these tools should help you through the Delve Endless event. Tip number 4 today is to learn the nodes that you need for upgrades. There's a lot of different nodes inside Delve. Every single encounter, every time you push the cart, you are going to be pushing towards a different sort of node. So you need to be able to know which nodes are no-goes and which nodes are go-goes. You need to know where it is that you need to prioritize spending your time. Nowadays, for the Endless Delve event, we won't be spending any sulfite in order to push down or push sideways. Because of this, I myself am not going to be prioritizing azurite nodes as I usually would be during the start of a new fresh trade league economy. Oftentimes in a fresh trade league economy, you want to go for azurite nodes early so that way you can build up a large sulfite pool to then be pushing further and further throughout the league. However, since we don't have to worry about running out of sulfite or ever leaving the Delve at all during the Endless Delve event, we don't have to prioritize azurite that much. But because we don't need to use azurite for sulfite purposes, we now can use it in order to upgrade our darkness resistance, our light radius, and even our carrying capacity of flares and dynamite. That's actually something that might be of value. Maybe you've got a strategy that's built around that, and you're really going to go for azurite nodes early on. Maybe you're going to avoid them completely. Either way, know which nodes you need to prioritize and when you should be prioritizing them in your build. Our 5th and final tip that we're giving today is to know which fossils are available in which biomes. There are different biomes. These are essentially the background on the Delve map as you are looking at the Azurive Delve map and either going sideways or going down. These backgrounds have oftentimes got different color shading. Sometimes they've even got some different texture to them. But what you're going to want to pay attention to is learning which biome it is that you are looking for particular fossils for your build. At this point, you might be saying, oh, G3 Iron, but I don't really care about fossils during this Delve event. One reason why you might not want to take that approach and that attitude is because fossils are going to be really one of the primary ways that we've actually got to craft gear in this particular event. We're not going to have bench crafting available to us. We're not going to have Jun in the syndicate. Like, we are going to have some very, very limited choices for actually upgrading and actually working on the gear that the game spits out to us. That's going to be very, very fun. And as all things in Path of Exile, knowledge is going to translate to player power. The more knowledge that you've got about the biomes that you're encountering, that's going to help you make decisions about where you want to push your cart, where you want to avoid pushing your cart, and how you're going to actually build out and fill out your item slots with gear that you've crafted that is actually valuable to what you're trying to accomplish with your build. I'll give a quick example of this. Let's say you're playing a build that's using brutality support, which means that you only deal physical damage. You cannot deal any elemental damage. You cannot deal any chaos damage. If you are playing a build that uses brutality support and is thereby only doing physical damage, you might look at very specific biomes in order to get some various fossils that are going to allow you to lock out specific rolls and lock in other specific rolls that are going to boost your physical damage on either your weapon or maybe on some rings or some jewelry. The flip side of that same argument is, let's say you're not playing a brutality build. Let's say you're playing an elemental build or a build that deals chaos damage. Now you're looking for different fossils which occur in different biomes. By knowing the biomes that you are pushing into, you now have got a better shot of accumulating the fossils that you need in order to craft the gear that you need to make your build successful. There are going to be some players in this upcoming event who are going to simply cry and complain, and sometimes it's going to be legitimate that people are the victims of terrible RNG and you don't get good stuff to drop. But more than likely what happens most of the time is players aren't actually aware of where they can go to get certain things to drop in order to build up a nice stash tab filled with crafting options to then further improve their player. Don't be that player who becomes a victim of their own ignorance. Know which biomes, which fossils can drop in, and then go target those biomes for the fossils that you need for your build. Well, thanks so much for watching and for joining us for today's discussion on 5 tips to remember during the upcoming Endless Delve event. I'd love to hear down below in the comments any tips, any wisdom, any thoughts, any insight that you've got to share with the rest of the community, so that way we all can improve and have a more excellent Endless Delve experience thanks to your tips and thanks to your wisdom and your experience in the mines that Nico loves so much. We're all going to love these by the end of the Endless Delve event, or we're all going to hate it. But either way, it's only a week. I think we're probably going to end up liking it more than not. But anyway, that's just me. Let me know down below in the comments what sorts of ideas and wisdom you've got to share. Thanks once again for joining us, and I hope today is the day a Mirror of Calandra drops for you. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.